So I had an idea. Why can't somebody go down, like me, go down to Florida, stop in every single shelter one by one in every single town with a van and a bus and a couple snacks and recruit homeless people, let them know that we're going to march on Washington. We're going to march to every shelter all the way up to Washington, recruiting people for a better life. We're on the chopping block now. That we are living in a fiat currency. The rich are running off with their money. We got companies taking advantage. We got doctors trying to take advantage. We got cops lighting people on fire, running the people over. We got young 26-year-old women getting run over by cops. Cops don't even care. We got this whole shit. We got presidents going to court. The whole thing is a mess. Do you think that who's going to be first on the chopping block? Who's going to freeze to death first? The rich guy who has a private plane and a yacht that inherited money from some Nazi-loving asshole who had a son that decided to start putting ice picks in people's brains as a medical treatment, and then had another son that did shock treatment, and now this son has billions of dollars and he's invested in a company that makes poison in food, and now he has millions of dollars. You think that guy's going to suffer a lot? You think he's going to freeze to death in the woods? Or does he have an armory in his house with lots of guns? Does he have a nice little bomb shelter someplace? Nope, it's going to be the people at the bottom that have been taken advantage since pretty much history that are going to be the ones that are going to get hurt. But then, like history shows, when you fuck up somebody, when you're going to make it so they work 100 hours and still can't have a place to live, when money is worthless and people are like, hey, I worked my whole life. What do you mean I have to live in the woods? What do you mean? I gave my life to this government. What do you mean? I lost an arm fighting in the war and all this shit. And now I'm in the shelter living, and the shelters are getting closed down, and I'm getting thrown out for a medical condition. What the fuck's going on? This is millions and millions of problems. I've seen violations, millions. So I go to shelter and say, anybody who wants to join me, I got a big giant bus out there. I got some people with cars that are going to join the convoy. We're going up to Washington, but we're going to stop at every church, in every single shelter, gathering as many people as we can. We're going to work our way all the way in a Z back and forth pattern. We're going to go left, then we're going to go right, then we're going to go left. And each time we're just going to go through each town slowly. From Florida all the way up, we're going to go to the left state in a straight line, then to the right state, just going up a little at a time. Within a couple of years, we should have a gathering of, who knows, maybe 20,000 people, maybe 100,000 people. Maybe some of them have legal gun-toting laws. Maybe some of them don't. Maybe some are crazy. Maybe some are violent. Maybe some want to riot. And of course, the government is going to shoot us. They're going to get the riot gear out. You know, even if we're doing a polite protest, we're not allowed. We've had our right to protest violated. We have no right to protest. We have no right to the 40-hour work week. We have none of our working rights, none of our rights that we got in the 1930s left. We have none of our right to protest. All of our rights have been slowly eroded over time. So it's time the people at the bottom get together and march up to Washington, then continue marching all over the country. As soon as they get the riot gear letter, we zoom out of there. We stop the protest. We go to California, start going to City Hall there. You know what? When they get the riot gear there, we leave. We go to another state. We start protesting there. We start gathering more and more people from shelters. And if you're wondering, how do you feed all these people? We're stopping at shelter, the church, the church. We ask them to help our cause. Most churches don't want to see homeless people die on a regular basis. I've had to watch at least 10 people die in front of me of perfectly preventable stuff. I know a couple that died in their tent hugging one another. Yes, they had some drinking problems, but guess what? The only reason why they died is the shelter wouldn't let them in, and his girlfriend didn't want to leave him because he had a warrant. So, you think what did happen? Did they give him a heater? Did they give him enough clothing to survive? Did they allow him in the shelter? No. They didn't even allow him on the street. The cops were pulling everybody off the street. This guy was going to jail if he had left that tent. I don't know what he did. But his girlfriend died. They didn't help his girlfriend. She was innocent. He died, and they both froze to death. Now, I don't know what their deal was, but most likely a doctor gave him some painkillers. He got addicted because most of the story I hear is doctor gave me drugs. When I was a child, the doctor gave me drugs. I got put at 16 on drugs. A doctor gave me these drugs. A doctor screwed up a surgery and I'm in pain for the rest of my life and I'm on drugs. It always seems to start with a doctor. And no matter which story, it always starts with a fucking doctor. So, how much blame are we really putting on the homeless and how much blame are we putting on the doctors? I mean, we're always saying that the homeless should have no help whatsoever because they sell or take drugs. But I see these doctors popping drugs all the time. The nurses popping pain pills, benzos. We got doctors saying, oh man, this surgery is giving me anxiety. Give me the benzos real quick. We got this shit like crazy. Doctors are the biggest drug addicts, so are nurses. You see it all the time. Just about every nurse I've ever met like the pop pills. Not only this, almost every single doctor I knew liked the push pills. I know plenty of drug dealers who don't want you to buy their shit. They say, hey, when are you going to get sober? You know what? Here's your shit. Go to rehab. Because the guys keep on coming back. I've seen more passionate drug dealers that I've seen doctors. We got doctors literally smiling when a mother is bullshitting about their child going, great, I can over-medicate this child with 15 meds. This shit is wrong. You got doctors double dosing children at the age of 12 with so many drugs that they're high as a kite. And at the age of 7, I experienced my first overdose. By the time I was 8, I knew what high was, but I didn't know exactly how that correlated until a teenager. Not only this, at the age of 12, I was fucked up high, the highest I think I've almost ever been, other than overdoses or something like that. Where? Under a doctor's supervision in Lowell Treatment Center. Yeah, my roommate said I didn't take my meds, so they shoved a double dose of Thorazine, Seroquel, Trazodone, Xanax, Benadryl, a bunch of shit like that. I'm not going to give the full list, but shit like that. Of course, I was fucking wrecked. 2 big doses. I was already on 200 milligrams of Thorazine, 600 to 800 milligrams of Seroquel, 200 milligrams of Trazodone. Actually, no, sorry, it was 150 of Thorazine. You got Risperidone, Lamictal, and don't even go with the Xanax. The Xanax was 1 milligram, not quite the 2 yet. It was the blue football 1 milligrams. I know this because I used to watch my mother finish the bottles off. Anyways, so yeah, this is fucked up shit, huh? Doctors are the drug dealers. They're the ones taking the drugs, but they get paid more than anybody else in society to fuck up society. You got police officers getting paid almost nothing. Meanwhile, they light people on fire, but at least half of them are good. At least 50% of the cops are actually doing their jobs. But then you got people who literally just want to use the homeless for free labor. These homeless people have no way out, and the shelters are just a trap. Most people who go to the shelters, like in my condition or in some certain circumstances, it's just a trap where you never get out. If you want to get out of the shelter, you have to be disabled, on Social Security, or able to hold a full-time job for the rest of your life at about 50 to 60 hours. And you got to find your own apartment. Not only that, they won't let you work certain hours. So your job has to be from 7 to 7 only. You cannot work before 7 and you cannot work after 7. If you don't make your check-in at 6:30 or you don't call in and you're not there by 7, you don't have a place to stay for the night. I've seen hundreds of people get thrown out of the shelter because their boss held them 5 minutes extra. I'm not even kidding. If you're working while living in a shelter and your boss keeps you a little longer than he's supposed to, you're not allowed to stay at the shelter. That is the actual rule. Though, how many people do you think would join me on this march with this shit happening every day in America? You got a fiat currency about to fail. You got the medical industry literally just scamming everybody. You got a lot of selfish parents trying to just suck up out of their kids. I'm not kidding. I've seen parents literally beat their kids until their eyeballs are popping out and then collect Social Security until they're in their 30s and they can't work no more. Just beating them, drugging them, just terrible stuff. Then you got my own experience where they're drugging me and trying to use me for money to try to help with the losses because some crazy mother wants a new pet. I'll leave it there, but yeah, society's falling apart, and I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to be alive much longer. But one thing I can do is stir up the country into trying to help itself.